Welcome to today's explainer. I am incredibly excited to unpack this one with you, mainly because we're going to tackle a massive, deeply ingrained myth about finance. I mean, we've all been taught that doing well with money is this hard science, right? That it's all a matter of high IQs, complex math, and staring at sophisticated spreadsheets all day. But what if I told you that your financial success actually has very little to do with how smart you are and pretty much everything to do with how you behave?
So today, we are distilling the fascinating, honestly timeless lessons from Morgan Housel's groundbreaking book, The Psychology of Money. This explainer is going to completely shift how you look at every single dollar in your bank account. We're going to explore human behavior, financial habits, and the emotional decisions that we all make every single day. Section 1, The Great Money Paradox. Okay, let's dive right into this, because to really grasp this concept, we need to look at a jaw-dropping story that completely shatters our normal assumptions about intelligence and wealth. Let's look at two completely different lives. On one hand, you have a brilliant technology executive. This guy was a certified genius. He actually designed and patented a key component in Wi-Fi routers back in his 20s, but his behavior with money was wildly reckless. Get this, he once bought several $1,000s worth of solid gold coins just to go down to the Pacific Ocean and skip them across the water like rocks, just laughing with his buddies. Later on, he shattered a $500 lamp at a hotel and literally threw a brick of cash at the manager to make him go away. So unsurprisingly, he eventually went completely broke. Now contrast him with the other guy, Ronald Reed. Ronald was a rural janitor and a gas station attendant. He swept floors at JCPenney for 17 years, lived in the exact same $12,000 house his entire life, and his main hobby was just chopping firewood. He lived this incredibly humble, low-key life until he passed away in 2014 at the age of 92. And that is when Ronald Reed made international headlines, because when he passed away, this humble janitor had a net worth of over $8 million. He left millions to his stepkids, to his local hospital, and to the library. The people who knew him were absolutely baffled. How on earth did a janitor amass $8 million? Well, the crucial point is this. Ronald didn't win the lottery, and he didn't have some secret trust fund. He just saved consistently and let it grow. And this perfectly proves that money is not a hard science requiring a genius-level IQ. It's a soft psychological skill. How you behave is just so much more important than what you know. Section 2, The Math of Compounding. That incredible story of Ronald Reed leads us right into our next pillar. We really need to understand why small, seemingly boring, consistent actions create these logic-defying results over time. It's actually a lot like the slow, unseen buildup of an ice age, where just a tiny bit of leftover ice each summer serves as the fuel for massive, world-altering glaciers over thousands of years. Which brings us to the most famous investor in the world. I want to ask you a question. What do you think actually makes Warren Buffett the subject of thousands of investment books? Is it his magical ability to predict economic cycles, or maybe his stock-picking prowess? Well, the answer is truly surprising. It's not just that he finds good companies, it's that he has been investing consistently since he was literally a child. He started at age 10. The vast majority of his wealth actually came after his 65th birthday. You know, none of the books about him are titled, "This guy has been investing consistently for 3/4 of a century," but honestly, they probably should be. The sheer, wildly unintuitive amount of time he has been in the market is the true secret here. Our brains are wired for linear math, right? Not exponential math. And that's exactly why compounding always catches us by surprise. Section 3, Getting Wealthy versus Staying Wealthy. This is where we hit a massive stumbling block. There is a stark, often tragic difference between the skills required to make money and the skills required to keep it. Getting wealthy requires taking risks, being super optimistic, and really putting yourself out there. But staying wealthy, well, that requires the exact opposite. It requires humility and, honestly, a healthy dose of fear that what you've made can easily be taken away. If you had to summarize all of money's success in a single word, it would be survival. This right here is the absolute bedrock of staying wealthy. It's not about making that one genius home run trade. It's about consistently not screwing up. It's about not panicking and selling during the 14 recessions that Warren Buffett lived through. Compounding only works if you give an asset years and years and years to grow. If you wipe out, or if you take on way too much debt, you interrupt that compounding. Survival gives you longevity, and longevity is what does the heavy lifting. Section 4, Wealth is What's Invisible. And this brilliantly illustrates our next major concept. Look, we are visually wired creatures. We constantly judge success by what we can literally see with our own eyes. But true wealth operates on a completely different level. Let me share a surprisingly funny yet painfully accurate example with you. A few years ago, the famous singer Rihanna nearly went bankrupt after massively overspending. She actually sued her financial advisor over the whole thing. And the advisor's response in court was absolutely legendary. He said, and I quote, "Was it really necessary to tell her that if you spend money on things, you will end up with the things and not the money?" I mean, you kind of have to laugh, but it's a profound point. When most people say, "I want to be a millionaire," what they actually mean is, "I want to spend $1 million," and spending $1 million is the literal opposite of being a millionaire. This brings us to a really vital distinction. Being rich is having a current, highly visible income. The person driving that flashy $100,000 Ferrari is rich because, hey, even if they bought it entirely with debt, they still need a high income to afford those crazy monthly payments. It's outward, it's loud. Society easily spots rich people and judges their success by those visible markers. But wealth is completely hidden. Wealth is the income not spent. It is the nice car you didn't purchase, the diamonds you didn't buy, the first-class upgrade you turned down. Wealth is an option not yet taken to buy something later. Housel actually uses a great analogy from health here. Exercise is a lot like being rich. You do the heavy work, and you feel like you deserve this huge treat meal. But wealth is turning down that treat meal and actually burning the net calories. It's the invisible, quiet restraint that gives you true freedom and time tomorrow. And that leads to what Housel calls the man in the car paradox. Think about it. When you see someone driving a screaming fast Ferrari, you rarely look at them and think, wow, the driver of that car is so cool. Instead, you imagine yourself driving the Ferrari, thinking that everyone else would find you cool. People buy fast cars and giant houses because they want to be admired. But the wild irony here is that humility, kindness, and empathy will actually earn you far more respect and admiration than horsepower or chrome ever will. Section 5. Be reasonable, not rational. Let's move into our final thematic pillar and just acknowledge a fundamental truth about ourselves. No one is crazy. We are all emotional creatures. We don't make financial decisions on cold, calculating spreadsheets. No, we make them at the dinner table. We make them based on our totally unique upbringing, our ego, our pride, and our own personal history. Because we are emotional creatures, you really shouldn't aim to be perfectly, coldly rational with your money. Instead, aim to be mostly reasonable. Being pretty reasonable is just far more realistic, and it's so much easier to stick with over the long run. I mean, if your financial plan demands robotic, flawless perfection, you're going to abandon it the very second life gets stressful. A reasonable plan that you can actually stick to for decades is vastly superior to some perfectly rational plan that you give up on after just a month. And a huge part of being reasonable is how you approach saving. Now, most of us are taught to save for a very specific goal, right? A car, a house, a vacation, retirement. But the truth is, you don't actually need a specific reason to save. Saving just to save is a hedge against life's inevitable ability to surprise the hell out of you at the absolute worst possible moment. The world is completely unpredictable. Saving simply creates a crucial gap, a safe margin for the crazy curveballs that you can't even comprehend yet. So let's see how all of this builds into our final takeaways. These are actionable, totally stress-free behavioral habits that you can start applying literally today. First up, find humility when things go right and forgive yourself when they go wrong, because luck and risk play a massive role in life. Second, less ego equals more wealth. Remember, wealth is just the gap between your ego and your income. Third, save just to save. It protects you from the wildly unpredictable. Fourth, use your money to gain control over your time, doing what you want, when you want, with who you want. That pays the absolute highest dividend in all of finance. And finally, just be nicer and less flashy. True respect comes from your character, not from your purchases. I want to wrap things up with this incredibly powerful thought from the legendary investor Charlie Munger. He said, "The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily. Let time do the heavy lifting for you. Build reasonable habits you can actually stick with, keep your ego in check, and just let the quiet, invisible power of wealth compound in the background of your life." So I'll leave you with this question to ponder. Are you currently structuring your life to look rich today, or are you building the invisible habits required to be truly wealthy tomorrow? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.